Hi, and welcome to the Jonny Sexton podcast powered by RugbyBits. I'm joined today. Well, it's our first one back in 2024, and we're joined by Kooks. My man, how are you? It's been forever. I haven't, as we were
No,
talking off
that's
here,
a
as much things change, they say the same, eh?
100%. Yeah, stays much the same. Tyler's still an asshole since he got back on Twitter. Jared still bashes me for every Scotland take that I make. So yeah, so pretty much things stay the same. But yeah, happy New Year to everyone. It's good to be back. Actually, it was a weird holiday because I actually watched a lot of rugby this holiday. It was quite nice. Like just obviously being on holiday, so undisturbed and just sat and watched rugby. So I had a very good rest, and a lot of rugby was consumed on the couch whilst I was consuming beers. So it was a very good, well balanced holiday. How was
Exactly,
yours?
exactly. Yeah, it was good. I watched zero rugby. The first game that so a little bit of a road trip. My missus was down from Australia, so I took her to Cedarburg, which was amazing. Yeah, just in the bush and light a fire. And then took her to the Eastern Cape and we went to Addo for a bit and then came back. But I know I messaged you guys the day I got back to my dad's place, which was on the way home. We stayed there for a night and I'm parking the car and my dad's like, "Can you hurry up because the rugby's about to start?" I was like, "Oh, awesome. Who's playing?" "No, Sharks and Lions." I was like, "Awesome." Go sit down and watch it. And basically 2023 Sharks rugby feels were brought back with the loss to the Lions. It was, I was just sitting there. My dad's like, "Oh, they got off to a good start." I was like, the Sharks have to, like, they have to get points and they have to dominate because they will always leave a side in with a sniff, and that mentally the Sharks suffer with, and mentally the opposition love because they know that they can beat the Sharks, and voila, words were true. But good holiday, my man, and you're gonna have to drive the URC chat on the South African derbies. I really didn't see anything. So what happened?
Well, the nice thing is, Sharks wise, just go back to the last four pods we had and just revisit those and watch those again. Surely re-listen. The same issues that happened there are happening now. It's just getting worse and worse. But Sean, it's like I think to briefly sum up, to briefly sum up that Sharks Lions game, Rian tweets doing Rian Lowe tweets in the first half like, "Oh my word, can you believe the Lions have helped the Sharks turn their season around?" And me, like the idiot I am, go and respond on Twitter. I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, Paul. Really appreciate it." Only for us to go and lose in the second half. But I definitely Sharks wise, Sharky. I look at the Sharks and look at the Stormers, for example, and the Stormers. Beat the Sharks, beat the Bulls in the holidays. And especially the Bulls game, the Stormers just find ways to win rugby games. And I said it last year, it just comes from a confidence of just being there, being in a final, winning a trophy, but just knowing how to get through tough games, knowing how to win the big moments. Against the Sharks Stormers, the Sharks had so many key moments which they lost, bad decision making. There was a stage shock. I remember in the Stormers game, there was the Sharks had a 3-man overlap. Cohen Bosch kicks it away. Stormers fullback kicks it out on the full. Just so you got passed back. Almost had the most amazing flip in 50-22. Gets brought back to outside the Stormers 22. So you think, okay, cool, Sharks have got a second grab at this. They're about 4 points behind. First phase line out, they go for a ridiculous cross kick, which just doesn't make sense. First phase, not even
First phase.
Yeah, line out a little more for about 5 meters. First phase, boom, cross kick. Like after the Sharks had advantage, things like that, and then the Stormers end up going 70 meters, kill the game, score, game over, and you're going, geez, Sharks chance to win it, you throw it away. Whereas that Lions game, for example, the Lions, you watch the game, they're so poor in the first half. Lions weren't great. They weren't at the races at all. Sharks weren't amazing, but they did enough to take the opportunities. And you're thinking, okay, cool, the boat's about to turn now. This is the sort of game that when they sort of need to sort of turn the season around. But then again, Sharky, it's as good as the Bulls and the Stormers, especially the Bulls. Especially the Stormers, how good they are in small moments. The Sharks are just, it's not great. Just throw games away. Give the Lions a sniff. Lions sort of get confidence. Next thing you know, you're thinking, the more the game goes on, the more I'm thinking, oh shit, the Sharks are actually going to lose this.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like they can't stop the bleeding. So it's like, that's the frustrating thing. And obviously, I mean, John Plumtree had those comments after the game about not knowing what his B side is and things like that. And it obviously does seem there's a lot going on there, especially a lot going on there. But it's tough. It's tough, bro. I think if there's ever a side, I keep saying this, like if there's ever a side that needs to win 2 or 3 games in a row, it's the Sharks. Just to get some sort of momentum, because it's one step forward, 10 steps back. One step forward, 10 steps back. I know they won the weekend, but I just think, Sharky, it's frustrating, and and like now Ronnie Van Rensburg's obviously going back to Bordeaux. So I mean, he's moved to the Sharks, didn't work out. I know there's quite a few guys tweeting like players who have left the Sharks and are doing well after. I mean, there's a lot going on, but there's nothing positives coming out the Sharks in months. That's the frustrating part as well. There's nothing good that's come out of him probably since Plum got announced.
Yeah. Well, someone got to get the Sharks a doctor so they can stop the bleeding. I mean, I didn't even watch most of the games, but what you're saying, I'm just like having PTSD about 2023 and 2022. So yeah, it is what it is. Some shining lights out of the URC South African side. I saw Damian had a flippin' brilliant game this weekend. How was he? I was always a bit worried about the Stormers' balance in the back three. I think Damian has to play 8, so they have to change things up. It worked this weekend, but how were things over the festive season?
It's one of those ones where, like, I think obviously Ross got injured, and then is it Ben Jason? Was this? Then Dixon
Ben
came
Jason
in,
Dixon.
and Ben
I'm
Dixon came on the flank, and then
big
made a
fan
big
when he plays
difference.
blindside.
He was very, very good on the blind side. I think, there's been quite a few shining lights. I mean, obviously,
Welcome back, eh?
Yeah, welcome back. And then I thought Stormers again, Shocky, each game they're just finding more and more momentum and more rhythm. Like, it hasn't been pretty in terms of, it hasn't been like, the classic Stormers, 35-10. It's they just finding ways to win. And because the Stormers now, I think the Stormers, one of those sides that I fall in love more and more with them. Shoba, I'm calling you out because Shoba is like, I'm out. I'm leaving the Sharks. I'm going to the Stormers. Like, he says, but it's like, it's so hard not to want to root for that side. They play good rugby. They find ways to win. And they always have these moments of magic. I mean, that Bull Stormers game, Sharky, was incredible. Such a great game of rugby. Stormers, again, showing how good they are at home. And it's like they know when to peak and they know when to come right. So I thought they were the shining lights. The Lions, obviously, again, very consistent. And for them, getting that win over the Lions was massive. We got to see Cash Van Rooyen cry. I don't know if he was crying because the contract extension is coming in. So he's...
Can we just talk about Cash? Can we just talk about the last few years of his career when he was being hated on by everyone? Everyone was bitching and moaning when they put him into the coaching position and they hated it. And now, I mean, it's taken a while, but it seems to be coming together. I know the Lions aren't really dominating in the URC log, but they're winning some important games.
100%. He was he was obviously, I think his job was in the line for about 4 years straight. Like,
it never will not be. He's at the Lions. Sorry, Ringo.
But, you've got to give him credit because you look at what he's done, and obviously, I want to say, Sharky, one of the hardest jobs to do is take over a project after it was successful. You go through a big rebuild, and unfortunately, they don't have the sort of pool the Sharks have, the Stormers have, but even the Stormers, though, if you look at like the amount of time they stuck with Dobbo, Dobbo's job also used to be on the fire line for a long time, and then now sort of they've stuck with Cash. He's got players playing really good rugby. He's got Nahamba playing well at 10. He's got Mario Slows probably being one of the centers of the competition. And he's playing very well. Built a good culture in the side, and also I think the most important thing, Shock, is we talked about this, is managed to retain most of the 90% of the stars to long-term contracts. So what they're doing this year can only get better. And we've seen what's happened with the Lions before under Johan Ackerman and Swez. What's happened when they've built something from scratch. We know that that's something that the Lions can do, is build something slowly but surely and just keep adding pieces. And my thing is, Shocky, the more they keep going, it becomes attractive to go play for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Like I think there's a lot of big names that, sorry, not a lot of big names, but very talented players that'll go there. I don't think they can afford to get some really blockbuster names unless they build them up. But you'll get some guys that are overlooked at academy level or not drafted into provincial sides for whatever reason that'll go there. And then I think the Lions like just always have the last sort of 5-ish plus years have just a chip on their shoulder as well. You know, like we are always the underdogs. We like nobody rates us. You know, that kind of vibe and that kind of G's them up, and they're doing well with. And as you say, like they've built a great culture. It looks like they're having a good time, even when they're not playing well. Like they still look like a proper band of brothers. So I think it's very much a watch the space kind of scenario with the Lions, where you're right. There's no reason why they shouldn't be building a little bit better with what's going on. They've also just recently announced a whole bunch of youngsters. I think it's the academy players that they're drafting in, or I can't remember what terminology is, but a whole bunch of youngsters that are coming through the system. So it's looking good for them for the future.
100%. And you look at the future for them. It's definitely promising because I mean the Currie Cups. I mean, on 21s and also Currie Cup to a very good province side that had Sasha in there and Imad Khan. So I mean they lost to a very good province on 21 side. So they do have the depth coming through and the youngsters coming through. So it's an exciting time to be a Lions fan. That just all they need to do is just move their flipping games away from Ellis Park so more people can actually go watch them.
No, they are. I think aren't all their home games in Europe still away? I'm pretty sure they still play their home games away. I'm talking rubbish. It's the Cheetahs, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. No,
Sorry,
that's
guys.
the Cheetahs.
I'm getting slowly back into the mix here.
No, shame. I know this. Ooh, that's a big one. That's a big
everything,
one.
Light fitting still intact?
Yeah, everything's still intact. I think all the plugs and stuff are just built in to survive the storm. But what I wanted to say was, I think with the Lions, we always talk about a chair in Joburg and say, you just want to watch them play. It's just they got to, whether it's in the mid round or something, we just got to find a ways to watch them play. And unfortunately it's frustrating because, like you said, like it's scary to go to Ellis Park, but you're risking your life to go there in the evening game, and there's such little people. So unfortunately, they got to find a solution to bring their games closer to the people, and that's unfortunately that's the reality of it.
Paris Rugby's calling, eh? Right. Let's jump into the Challenge Cup. I'm just going to briefly go through a couple of sort of selected results here. The Challenge Cup. Let me go through that first. Big one on Friday. Benetton thrashed Newcastle Falcons. Never saw that coming. 57-18, but Benetton have been pretty decent. I just expected more from the Falcons. Ospreys beat Papillon, and then the Sharks back on their yo-yo vibes, beating Oyonnax at home, 38-7. Clermont beat Scarlets. Zebra beat Dragons. Kooks, I'm pretty happy that Dragons took a pounding by 3 points, eh?
Yeah, shame. I don't anymore, Sean. Like it's a new year. Like my New Year's resolution is not to hate on any teams. No more taking digs at random teams. That's
especially
my New
the
Year's
Welsh
resolution.
teams. The Welsh teams have got enough on their plate.
Especially the Dragons. I mean, yeah, exactly. The Welsh teams have got enough to deal with. They got a coach who doesn't really want to be there. They got no money. Players it's a mess there. So they don't need me adding to their shit.
Yeah. Some news I picked up on social. Joe Hawkins was rumored to be going to the Premiership, but it looks like he'll be staying in Wales now. Obviously, if he goes to the Premiership, he'll not be able to play for Wales. But back to the Challenge Cup, Castres beat Black Lion 28-6. Edinburgh and Gloucester won in Edinburgh at 21-20. Pretty decent outing. On Gloucester, Ruan Ackerman is wanting to leave Gloucester, so he's rumored to come back to South Africa. And then a South African team involved. Montpellier beat the Lions 13-3 in France. It was a lot closer than that. I thought the Lions hung on really well. I think it was 3-3 at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. It was a bit crazy. And then Cheetahs went down 20-33 to Pau. Kooks, did you manage to have a see at that? I think there were a couple of good tries of that, but I didn't watch the game.
Yeah, it was a good game. Shame. I think the Cheetahs, I always feel bad for them because I think it's, Power played very well. I also thought the Cheetahs just weren't at the races as well. I think that this is when it's games like this one where it catches up to the Cheetahs not playing competitively week in, week out. You know what I mean? We should rock up every 3-4 weeks and try and put in a performance. And some weeks you play back-to-back weekends, some if they don't. And I thought, and obviously the travel factor as well. So I just thought that they were just caught out. Started the races and Pau. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's a good outfit. I mean, we know how strong those top 4 teams are, and especially depth wise. And so I just thought they caught the Cheetahs in the worst, and Pau definitely took massive opportunity of that.
Yeah, and this weekend coming, the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup play again the last rounds of their group stages. Challenge Cup. Before we move on to the Champions Cup, just the South African fixtures. Oyonnax host Cheetahs this weekend. The Lions host the Ospreys, and the Dragons host the Sharks. That's going to be great chatting to you about that next week, Kooks. I know that you and I chatting about that next week could be probably box office, depending on who wins there. But I think we can just jump straight into the big stuff, straight into the Champions Cup. Again, I'm just going to run through a couple of things. Saints beat Bayonne comfortably. I expected a little bit more from Bayonne, but Saints run riot over there. Lyon beat Connacht. Chiefs narrowly beat Glasgow Warriors. Great game. Henry Slade again, that man's clutch. He has to be in the England squad. I think all the Six Nations squads are being announced this week. Onto the first South African side of the weekend. Bulls were away to the Bears at Ashton Gate, and they won 31-17. Quite a good result, and the Bulls looked pretty tidy.
Geez, the Bulls look good. I mean, and at 17, I think 2 tries came right at the end as well. I think, the Bulls are the depth that Jake White is building is flipping sensational. I think what he's trying to do now, the quality he has in each position. I mean, arguably, Monster could see he's not even a starter for the side anymore. You know what I mean? Like he's got to fight his way in because he's fighting with Morne van Staden. Kumede was incredible again in the weekend. He's been playing flipping well.
Unbelievable little cameo he's been having recently, eh?
And I mean, even the first game on tour when their first Champions Cup game away, he was good as well. He every time so good that he got to start in one of the SA derbies as well. He's put his hand up tremendously, and he's fighting in a position where they have depth. Like he's fighting with the likes of Ariukhlo and the likes of Cameron Hanekom. So it's like it's a big battle for that 8 jersey, and it just shows that the quality that Jake is working with and the guys. I mean, to go to Ashton Gate and get a result is, I mean, he's no big feat. Devin Williams again, absolute magician on the weekend. The try he put Sergio Peterson through to score, it looks so simple.
Is that when he hit the line? When he hit the line from deep.
That beautiful drift to sort of take out 2 defenders and create 2.
Oh, yeah. No, I was thinking of another one, yeah.
Small things like that where it just shows again where Jake White can leave out someone like Villery, but you get someone like Devin Williams who was hungry for an opportunity. Sergio Peterson again scores a great finish.
Kooks,
I really
sorry. That Williams try that he set up, that was when that drift that he took basically nullified a positive defensive number into a positive attacking number.
Yeah,
in terms 100%. Of players. It was incredible.
So good. And it's like so subtle. And just shows the quality of it. And I think with the Bulls, I mean, Kutum Kunu as well, off the bench as well, an amazing cameo. But again, it just shows, like, I think Jake White, I mean, I mentioned this in the previous parts where he said himself that he just didn't trust the depth he had last season. He ran his starters into the ground. Now, what's happening is he's actually building 2 very good squads, which is what you need to compete in Europe. What you need to be able to...
I love it when coaches can come out and, like... So he basically said he didn't trust the guys and therefore didn't play them. But he knew this year that he had to. So this wasn't a case of the guys have forced their way in. It's a case of Jake White going, I've got to save the big boys for later. But all these guys have basically sit there smashing down trees, going, "I'm going to show you." And now, Jake White's had to swallow his pride again. There's a couple of times that he's done it. He's not really played guys, and they've basically forced their way in, which is it's shitty that it came to that, but it's great that there's that sort of environment where players are not despondent, that they're completely pushing it to get a look in.
I think it's one of those things. I think what it looks like is, I think there's healthy competition in there. I think the culture looks good, the vibe looks good, because you can always tell that. My sign of telling a good culture is if you bring someone in, they come in and thrive immediately. And every time they made changes, the guys have played well. So you can sort of tell that there's a good squad and there's a good culture amongst them. Obviously, last year was an absolute shit show, and they don't want to go back down that path again. And sometimes, like you said, Sharky, is sometimes you got to actually fail properly, fall on your face, and realize, okay, cool, we got to change the way we operate. And obviously, I think they've had incredible signings they've brought in. Again, and for me, it's the balance of signings they brought in. It's you get the star power in Avolkolo, Willie Leroux comes back, but then you're adding good quality depth in a Kutumkunu. Kumeda comes in, Sab de Klerk comes in, Sergio Pearson comes in, Devin Williams comes in on loan. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just the team that I support, where it's just like maybe just you're looking for a bunch of superstars, but you're looking for guys who actually can fit in and do the certain role for you. Because someone like Devin Williams is a perfect guy. He's almost the perfect like-for-like Villeroy replacement. You can come in a game like that, away from him, and still qualify. Sergio Peterson, guy who's been on 2 interviewer tours of the box, he's got enough quality to go and do well on that side, on the wing. Someone like Seb de Klerk from Puma is hungry. Then you got Isaac Kumede, who won chances, didn't get much of the Sharks, and now Jake's giving him a chance, and now they're making it awkward for Jake. Now Jake he's trying to see who is his starting side.
And the players, they're not all exactly the same in many positions. Some are, but they're also different styles, which Jake White is not. He's not a stupid coach, so he's able to change things around a little bit as well. He'll get to the point now where he can start naming sides for different game plans, the same as what the Springboks ended up doing, where we had in the Springboks we had a squad of 33, but we could play 3 different starting lineups and have different game plans, So, yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Bulls will bring. And, you mentioned it earlier about like teams have got to fail to get better. The Bulls lost the final of the URC in the opening tournament. They didn't really get through in the second round, but they want to obviously move forward. They've learned a lot. So, yeah. After that, we had a game that I thought would be a little bit closer, where Munster beat Toulon at the Mayol. But Munster, struggling with a few injuries, welcomed back the War God. And Munster dominated. Alex Nankivell from the New Zealand, who went there, we all knew would do well. I mean, I definitely did. I'm a big fan of his. I prefer him at 13, but him and Antoine Frisch, they can swap between 12 and 13 comfortably. I was actually looking at that Kooks. Antoine Frisch and Alex Nankivell, you can start them either 12 or 13. It doesn't matter. And there are very few players that can do that. But yeah, Munster beating Toulon, I thought that would be a bit closer, 29-18. On to Leinster dominating Stade Francais at the Hacjivah, 43-7. I kind of expected that.
Yes,
I thought
Leinster were good, eh?
Yeah.
It's one of those like Leinster, Toulouse. I'd say the Stormers at home. Like the Crusaders, peak Crusaders. Like those are one of the few sides where when they turn it on, there's nothing you can do.
100%.
Like there's nothing.
You just try and minimize it. You just try and get something out of it, like a big tackle. But I must say, on that,
went bad. Starfers weren't bad at all. It's just, geez, Leinster was so ruthless, clinical.
I'm like, couldn't cope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Miller on Twitter put out a list of how the knockout stages would look if there was no round 4. And interestingly enough, the one I want to focus on is in the round of 16, it will be Leinster versus La Rochelle. So I was just having a chuckle. Are you saying Leinster are cooking at the moment? Imagine they run into La Rochelle and shit themselves.
I saw this one. I saw one of the best memes I saw all holiday was No. It was this week when they announced Andy Farrell as Lions coach. It was like a Simpsons one. They were like, all he's going to do is pick all Leinster players, so it'll be fine. And then the Australians like, we'll just pick Will Skelton. They're like,
Oh, brilliant. That is world class. You must find that. You must find that and share it.
Because Leinster's only weakness is Will Skelton, the same way the Bulls' only weakness is the Stormers.
Exactly. For those of you who want to follow Kevin Miller on Twitter, it's Top of the Moon GW. It's heavily Scottish Twitter feed and fan. So yeah, well worth it. Right, after Leinster dominating stud, we went on to Cape Town Stadium and Stormers beat Sale 31-24. I was surprised at. I thought Sale didn't. I wouldn't say they were under strength. I just thought they were probably not their total first choice. But yeah, pretty decent game that. Hacjivah Diamani cooking. I loved his post-match interview, just plugging his own business, and he must go hard at that. I hope he gets to do more of that. Hibachi shoes, hibachi.co.za. I'm not sure of the URL, but
yeah, Hibachi shoes.
He was gunning hard, but he was cooking, man. And the thing is, you know what I love about him, and I don't see it that often, that sort of pivot fend. I don't know what it is, but he fends you and then swings, and he keeps his pace. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely ridiculous how like the way that Oak actually just beats defenders. It's like it's actually a joke, but like he's got like that little pivot fin. Like it's almost like he boosts himself off uses defenders as a boost.
He like slows down to fin, and then he's like full taps already, and you're like, how did you do that? You didn't use your feet.
Yeah, no, he's an absolute joke. But I was glad to see him back to his best. I mean, when he's like, the funny thing is, like, shocking, the Stormers are making me laugh because they're getting back to their best, but it's coming back in pieces, if that makes sense. It's not like coming back all at once. It's like the box, they start the season a bit rusty, then the box get back. Then it's like, okay, cool. Now I got to integrate the box in. Okay, Marnie's playing well again. Williams is playing 15, looking good. Then Dan du Plessis comes back. Then the line
puzzle pieces.
Like puzzle pieces come back. Now like Hacjivah now is coming back into form. It's like all these small little pieces coming together at the right time. It's like, and it's perfect because I mean, like if talking about Munster, for example, like this is the time of the year when Feb, March is when you want to start peaking. And the thing is, you don't want to get everything right come. I mean, October it doesn't mean anything. So I think this is the time now you want to get the puzzle pieces back together. Now you're adding Hacjivah back to his best, which is we saw the havoc and damage that he has caused. I mean, I know on Twitter it was a big thing about where's Hacjivah the players in the box setup, and you see, that's what I love. I miss South African Twitter. I miss the days of just putting players in the box squad like we don't have a squad of 33. Just we have 55-man squads again. And I love it. I mean, Hacjivah's like, we're getting the squad. So I was like, I would love to see Hacjivah play the green and gold. So I was like, where's he going to play? He's like, well, we can put him on the bench. He's like, what about Kwaka Smith? So I was like, well, you can't play all the games. Like, I'm like, guys, you can't just say.
I think our current squad and the way that we balance our back three, our loose trio, I reckon that Hacjivah Diamani would fit comfortably into that. I know we like a big 8 with big carries, but we always have a big blindside flanker and a big lock that just gets through a mountain of work and tackles, and we always have a good open side. So I think he could fit in there. It will be interesting and very un-Springbok-like, which would create other things that we'd need to balance out a little bit. But I know the powers that be definitely have the savvy to do it. I would love to see him get a look in.
We were talking about the Springboks here, a side that picked a 7-1 split and had no scrum off on the bench, right? So I don't think the term un-Springbok, like the only thing we know about the Springboks is that we fuck teams up physically. That's the only thing we'll know.
And the only thing we know is we don't know. That's the only thing we know is we don't know.
Yeah, like after fuck them up physically, it's open gates to see what's going to happen. You try and think of a box squad for the first test against Ireland. Like what?
That's what I want to chat about. We're going to get into that. On a side note, I was just thinking about it. I was actually lying in bed I was lying in the hammock, on my hammock when I was in the Cedarburg, just taking it all in. And I was thinking, the Springboks have the most scrum halves that have won a World Cup. There's no ways. No one can beat us. We've got more scrum half winners than anyone else.
That is incredible. Man. But yeah, I think someone like Hacjivah, I think I agree with you. It's that sort of different X factor that someone like Rassie will think about in terms of the way he plays, someone off the bench, or certainly
it'll take a few games to come right. That's the thing that I love is we allow for errors, because we did a 7-1 split and it probably wasn't the best chance to try it out against New Zealand because we dominated. But we tried it out again and we were like, oh, I don't know about it. But basically what they do is they try it out to figure out how to make it better.
But then also remember, like, we did play games with Grant Williams on the wing. So it's like innovation is something that is paramount in the Springboks. So I think with someone like Hacjivah, it's the conversation might not be who we replace. It's he might be in what sort of game plan will the Boks play, so he can come in if he gets in the mix. I think the Bok chat is different now in certain players because it just can't be like for like, because as you've seen the Springboks, no one does the same role. Like it just feels like they've gotten also the guys who go in there, they all have 33 different roles to play. And I think someone like Hacjivah is maybe, possibly, if they're thinking about him, like it's something different. Maybe
well
they don't
if
have.
It's tight as well. I think defensively he's not terrible. So if the opposition start dictating things, I don't think that he would be out of place in a real tight space.
100%. And I think if there's ever a year as well for him to ever get a Springbok cap, it's probably this year. Into first year of the World Cup.
Oh no, last year before, but yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I just mean in terms of schedule. Like, I mean, we played Portugal, for example. We've got it's a year before it's a year after the World Cup. A few changes being made, a few combinations, trying a few things. So this year could be, in terms of like games wise, could be the best time for him to do it.
In closing, on the Stormers, is two things. One, we talk about the Lucies and how it suits Hacjivah Dayimani. Lucies on Saturday were Dion Fourie, Ben Jason Dixon, and Hacjivah Dayimani, but also Ruben van Heerden at 5. The Springboks have that map already in terms of players, and that's why I think Hacjivah Dayimani will do well in the Springbok setup. I also think there will be some teething problems, and I do believe that he can play tight. The other thing, and Kooks, I know you want to talk about it, but I'm such a big fan. I played at Ikes and he went to the Lions and he's back now, but Steve Sithole is cooking at the moment.
He's another very, very good signing for them from the Stormers. He scrummed well on the weekend. Jeepers, he always been a solid campaigner. I just think, again, we're like the two best sides in the SA have made quality signings. I mean, look at the Stormers. You lose Steven Kitshoff, as opposed to trying to get a like-for-like Kitty replacement. Take his salary, split it in half, or split it in whatever ways. Get Koboka, you get Steve Sithole in. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to find another Kitshoff. So what do? Find ways to maximize what to give you in a Steve Sithole and Lisa Koboka who comes back anytime soon. But like,
I can't wait for him to come back.
Someone like Steve, he's also putting himself in the mix, a Bok mix, the way he's been playing, scrumming well,
I would love
carrying
it.
well. And just so stoked to see him play some good rugby for the Stormers.
Yeah, I would love to. So wrapping up Stormers, they beat Sale 31-24. Quins dominated Cardiff at Cardiff Arms Park, 54-15. Ulster and Toulouse. Ulster at the Kingspan took on Toulouse. I thought Ulster would probably do a little bit better just with the form they're currently in. I think they're starting to hit their straps now. But what they didn't factor on was running into an Antoine Dupont that was the best Antoine Dupont ever. Like the Antoine Antoine's Dupont. Yeah. So as Swidge calls him Tony, Tony cooked and Stud smashed Ulster 48-24.
Yeah, Flip Toulouse are good. I think also, Shocky. Low-key signing of the season, Blair Kinghorn for Toulouse. Oh, he was good again. He was good in the weekend 15. Oh, he was good, eh?
Oh, I just think, what a signing, especially when I watched his debut. I was like, there's a couple of tries for you. You're doing okay, mate.
Yesterday, he was good. He was good in the weekend. And only going to get better. I mean, flipping, having to, I mean, probably the highlight is, I know Ntamak still being out. I mean, probably the biggest compliment is Klingon moving Ramos to 10, actually, because Kingon's got to play. That's how well he's playing. You can't bench. You can't put him on the bench, or you can't even put him at 10. You got to put him at 15. And we know
Yeah.
Keegan has played 10 for Scotland before, so
I prefer
do
him at
think
15. I think he's much better.
yeah, me too. I think he's a 15 as well. But
Yeah.
I thought also I was just very impressed with how he was going. And again, when Dupont is playing like that, there's nothing you can do. Like,
No.
what do you do when the best player in the world decides to play like the best player in the world?
The best player in the world plays like the best player in the world. Right, on to the game of the weekend for me. Bath beating Racing 29-25. I'm pretty bummed. I found myself really supporting Racing hard since Khaleesi's gone there. It's a little hard not to. And Racing are in desperate need of a win. Mathematically, they're still in a chance with going deeper. But Bath were incredible. I was so happy. I quite like both of them, so it was a little tough for me. But one thing, I thought Alfie Barbary was very lucky not to get red carded off his first offense. His second offense, I thought, was a red card too, but they were both yellows and he got sent off eventually anyway. But yeah, what an incredible result. Johan van Kraan's really doing something special. And a shout out to Racing 92, who have possibly the biggest names in their coaching setup. They've got Stuart Lancaster, Freddie Michalak, Joe Rokothoko. They've got Dmitry Sozevsky. I mean, it's wild. It's crazy, but they couldn't do it. Kooks, I'm not sure if you watched the game, but incredible for Bath, especially at the Rec.
You're asking me if I watch a game, if I watch a Finn Russell game, Sharky? Is the sky blue?
Is the sky blue? Did he absolutely smoked Cameron Wokey? Absolutely
yes, he did,
crushed him. There was a little bit of chatter afterwards, and apparently Cameron Wokey said to him, "So you've learned to tackle since you've come here."
he saved for after he left racing. But that's a very good game. I think Johan van Kraan is he's built a good side, and I think you can see it's because last season you can sort of see he was putting in the sort of foundations of how he wants them to play defensively, getting them right. Because I mean, remember the tries Bath used to leak back in the day before Johan van Kraan got there, just so leaky on defense, and then now he sort of built a foundation of that side, got the foundation, and then now this year you sort of bring in the star power, you get the likes of Finn, and now you can see the difference that makes. And I mean, to beat a Racing side, I mean, which is also stacked with firepower. I mean, you got Trevor Nyakana, Kolisi, Gail Fiku there. I mean, and they were desperate for a win in the weekend because you're right, Shocky. Racing could miss out, and that I don't know if it's a good thing because Kolisi plays less rugby, or if it's a bad thing because obviously you want them to go further on. But I think Johan van Kraan is doing a fantastic job, and it's just great to see our coaches just putting their footprint all over the world. And something like Johan van Kraan, I mean, if there's ever a time to make your bid for Bok Coach 2031, if Rassie does let it go, now's the time.
Yeah, true story. Side note, I have a bet with a mate of mine, Richard. He's a big Bath fan. And 2 years ago when Johan van Kraan took over, I said Bath will win the premiership in 2 years. So this is my year. I have a little wager with him, and he knows. I keep reminding him every week Bath play well. But as I said, he's a big Bath fan, so it really doesn't matter. On to La Rochelle versus Leicester Tigers. Granted, Leicester did not name their first choice side, but La Rochelle, who have been a bit shaky in the Champions Cup, have come out and dominated 45-12. UJ Suteni, I love him, but Dante and Suteni in the midfield, but La Rochelle cooked, and they did bring Visser and Pollard on with probably about 30 minutes to play, but I think it was a little bit too far gone by then, eh?
Yeah, it was a bit too far gone. But La Rochelle was due a big performance in the Champions Cup. I mean, obviously they didn't have the greatest of starts, losing their first two games. So you do think that eventually they were due to sort of kick on and show why they are back-to-back defending champions. So again, I think La Rochelle also in that mold of there's much you can do, but when they turn it on and poor Visa and Pollard it come and sort of do a consolation job. But I think they're probably better off just staying on the bench, just be like, well, this game is done here. But
it's done. Yeah,
I think it was a very good win for La Rochelle. I mean, obviously they've got a lot of work to do to try and to qualify. But I mean, because that group is so stacked. It's a ridiculous group. I mean, so like it's your best bet is for teams like for La Rochelle. Their best bet is for teams to sort of like try and knock each other out. Like that might be the best bet because the teams are so stacked in that group that you're hoping that like someone like a Leinster could run the table, but like you're hoping the Stormers, Sale Sharks, Leicester, those dogs all at least just beat each other up, and then maybe you pick up wins here and there. Like and I think like you said, Shark, in the Champions Cup, home wins become so important.
Massive. Onto the biggest upset of the weekend, I would say. Bordeaux thumped Saracens 55-15. Sarries named a full strength side. It was probably the only time I've ever seen Owen Farrell just not on it. He opened the game up with 2 pretty bad passes. A little later on, another bad pass into someone's head. It just, Saracens just didn't do it. They tried hard, but Bordeaux were the complete opposite. Absolutely cooking. Jalibert was on fire the whole game. Dupont was just dominating, and Bilberry was also cooking. So it was absolutely wild.
I mean, Jalibert. I mean, like it's. I love Jalibert so much, and I mean, it's so watching. I mean, in Bordeaux, I mean, they cook. I was watching the highlights again this morning, and Saracens. It almost felt like wrong place, wrong time. I mean, but Saracens have been struggling the last few weeks as well. They haven't been at the races the last few weeks, even Farrell especially. I don't know what happens to English players and them losing form just before the Six Nations starts or any tournament starts. Like they want to. They never want to go into like a Six Nations strong. They want to get they want to get there and struggle and then like add all the controversy to them. They're already flipping. Both things are already flipping, struggling to find out who's a 10 or. But I think Bordeaux is very good again, bro. But like for me, I'm actually considering getting a ticket for this weekend's game, Bordeaux Bulls in Pretoria. I just want to see if Bordeaux is bringing down the big guns before I get the ticket. I just want to see if Bulls, like, yes. You know this French side, Shocky. I'm sure Bordeaux is probably playing like flipping Castres in 3 weeks' time, so they're going to arrest all their guys now because they're like top 14 means more.
Bordeaux are really qualified, so there's a good chance they won't bring the big boys down. And the Six Nations is coming soon.
That's the game that's worth going down to Pretoria for. Just Bulls Bordeaux. If the Bordeaux to the full strength side, that's an absolute humdinger as well.
Yeah. Okay, wrapping up the results. Let's go through the pools quickly. Pool 1, Bordeaux, Lyon never really qualified. Bulls, Bristol, Saracens are all within a chance of qualifying, and Connacht at the bottom. Sarries have got Bristol. I can't remember who they got the weekend. Doesn't matter. Pool 2, Toulouse qualified, Bath qualified, Harlequins qualified. Last place is between Ulster, Racing, and Cardiff. Ulster 5 points, Racing 3 points, so there's a chance there. Pool 3, Saints qualified, Chiefs qualified, Munster, Glasgow, Bayonne, and then Toulon. I don't think Toulon are going to qualify. They're going to need a hell of a lot to go their way in order to qualify. So Munster should qualify, but we'll see how that goes. Pool 4, Leinster qualified. This is the best part about it. That's only one team that is guaranteed qualified out of the 6. Stormers, Leicester, La Rochelle, Sale, and Stade Francais. Stormers on 9, Leicester on 9, La Rochelle on 7, Sale on 5, and Stade Francais on 1. So Pool 4 is the one to watch this weekend, definitely. Just quickly find out who. I can't even remember. Saracens are playing Lyon this weekend. I think that's who I forgot about. But we'll probably cover a little bit of that a little later. And that's going to wrap up our Champions Cup chat. Now, the part that I'm excited about is Kooks and I just get to shoot the breeze a little bit and discuss 2024 and rugby. Kooks, where do you want to start? Are we going to start with the Springbok squad? We have to, surely.
Because we got to start with the back-to-back world champs. Introduced them properly, not like how the Irish introduced Jacques Nina. Did you see that?
No. What? Tell me, please. Give me another reason to not like them, please.
So Jacques Nina was invited to do a talk, and so while they were obviously like building him up and showing his like a video package, the video package was about the game playing. The video package was Ireland vs Springboks, the only game the Boks lost in the World Cup. That's the game they showed. They didn't show like the World Cup final. Nothing.
No.
Just like, and by the way, like by the way, like, I didn't say coach Jacques Nienaber. I'm like, and they put like the most dramatic music on there. It sounded so dramatic. And then I'm like, guys, are you not going to show the game where we want to work? Like, you can show some pool stage game that you won and you be like, yeah, by the way, like, we get it, you world champions, but don't forget, but we still beat you.
They're so bitter. They'll still be bitter for a long time. I'm very interested into seeing how November comes along, because France very bitter, Ireland very bitter. Well, we've obviously got the Six Nations coming. England are bitter because they lost by a point. So there's lots of fun to be had. But we've got Ireland for 2 test matches, and then Spain. Is it, or Portugal?
Portugal.
So we've got Ireland for 2 test matches. That's going to be relatively big. I think Ireland are going to have to try and blood some youngsters and bring some new boys in. They're obviously going to have a new fly half. But what's going to happen? What's Rassie bringing? As much as the only thing we know is that we don't know, but what do you think Rassie will bring?
So I think it's an interesting one because what I would do if I was Rassie is, to be honest with you, like I think I said it in one of the pods, or I've said it to people in pods, maybe I said it over a beer. What I would do is I would call in Eben, Kitsi, Franz, Sia, probably Lucano. I think Lucano's a year younger than them. But in the fours, I'm calling Peter Steff. I'm calling those oaks in and going, okay, do you guys want to go back for try 3-peat if needs be? I'm telling, for example, someone like Eben, Sia, kids of France, that they're not playing a test until the end of the year tour. Sort of not even for championship. Rest them, or they're missing these 3 games, and then let's say then Peter Steff, Lucano, and yeah, they'll miss like 3 games in the championship. So I think for me, the imperative is the big guns to make sure it's look after them, because I do think the Springboks now have got a chance to sort of blood in a few youngsters. I think if I'm Rassie, I'm doing a big mixture of, I'm going with a bigger squad than normal, especially looking for that Portugal game, where I do think it'll sort of be almost similar to that Wales test in 2022. Remember when you made like 14 changes? I'm thinking something like that for Portugal, where you're giving other guys chance. Eric Lowe's, maybe if they're in the mix, guys like that. Maybe if you're ever going to pick a Karen Hanako, that's the sort of game for him. But like I think obviously it's important that those first 2 Ireland games. But for me, Sharky, I think it's the rest for the big guys. Rest for guys like but I think it does come to management, like player management. I mean, you look at the All Blacks. I mean, the back in when they were functioning rugby union, they would give a sabbatical to the likes of Richie McCaw, likes of Dan Carter, Conrad Smith, find times in the calendar sort of to rest them and gamble and being like, listen, we're gonna go into championship without a Conrad Smith. Conrad Smith or Ben Smith, he'll play the June series and then he's not playing until the end of the year or he's done for the rest of the year. So find guys in, throw guys into the fire and be like, you're playing a test match against Gary Ringrose. Let's see how good you are. Kane and Moody, we don't have another option at 13. Maybe we're gonna give you 3. We're gonna give you a series at 13. See what we have here. If needs be, someone like Creel, we know what you can do. Maybe you can get some time off. But that's what I'm thinking. I know Tyler's probably wants us the Boks to sort of go on a big run and sort of go, listen, this year, put a stamp mark on it, win 90% of the games. I mean, that I'd love to see, but I'd also love to see some youngsters be introduced then. And also, to be honest with you, Sharky, I do think we can rotate and still win at the same time.
Absolutely. We have that culture, and Leinster, the Crusaders and Saracens have showed it. Toulouse are starting to show it, where it's in the culture, where guys are growing up. The Bulls have it, where they had, even when they after they won the Super Rugby and they didn't have the best squad, they still went on to win because there are youngsters going up through meeting people and playing in the Bulls sort of setup and coaching and being coached. That's just in their blood. The All Blacks have it. Like, they know that they're going to win everything. They used to know that. So it's really big. I agree with you. I think a big thing for us would be probably, I would like to see Kitshoff and Kolisi either go to Japan or come back to South Africa in about 2 to 3 years. I don't know how long their contracts are, but we would need any of the guys that are probably going to be on the sort of on the fence in terms of whether they're going to be too old or overplayed, probably need to be sent away, just to kind of play in that system for a while. I think it's shown that Japan can definitely help a player, and it all depends on a player's work ethic and everything. And I think the Springboks have all got it. I think it's quite evident. That'll be good. I'm looking forward to these 2 tests against Ireland. But yeah, we probably June, July. I think Rassie and the Springboks have earned the chance to have a look at a few players. The Rugby Championship, I would like to see us give it horns in the opening 2 to 3 matches and then reevaluate after that. But we'll probably, I do see this year as been drafting some players, and then November probably the same. You know, we don't have a Lions tour coming up. We've got the World Cup in 4 years, so I think they've earned the right to do it. But you know what the Springbok fans are like. You know, if they lose 2 or 3 games, then you know there's going to be pressure on everyone. So yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to it. Kooks, if you had to name a player that's probably the front runner to get his first time call up into the Springbok setup, who do you think it'll be?
It's kind of hard to do past Karen Anokom.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I think he's probably the front runner to get his first cap. I think these if I put into tiers, I think he's probably in the top tier front runner. I'd love to see Robert van Heerden get a look in as well. I mean, he's been playing some really good rugby.
He's in the best lock mold the Springboks look for as well.
Yeah,
and he's got the work rate.
100%. So I think someone like that. I think he would be a good shout. And Shoki, do you think anyone if you look at the guys overseas, do you think there's any Bok overseas could be a little Balter from Russia, almost like a is it a Nico Janssen van Rensburg, someone like that, where you could see coming into the mix this year?
I still like the idea of Tyron Green getting a look in. He's come back from injury and he's been pretty handy. It's going to take him a while, it looks like, to get back to his old form. I really think that I'd like to see him get a look in, but the truth is it's where. Like the back three, we are so full of players. The good thing for Tyron Green is he plays 15, so that probably could be a bonus for him. Having said that, Moody plays 15 as well, but I agree with you. I'd like to see him have a look in at 13. I want to watch him play there properly in a few games just to sort that out. Yeah, Nico Janssen van Rensburg, possibly. It's the where, but it's really hard because the squad we named was such an effective squad, and there are a lot of guys that could still be in the mix. We're really probably looking for an 8. So yeah, overseas, I don't know. Trying just to refresh my memory with a few players over there that you reckon should get mentioned.
Do you know Marwan? And I'll say this for now a few years. Someone like a Hanro Liebenberg, who's been very good for a few years now, for just putting his hand up constantly. Someone like Stephen Levis, you know he's got a cap, but I mean, there are Oaks who've been putting their hands up for a number of years, especially. But again, it's positions where we are stacked. I mean, we're stacked in loose forward, stacked at lock. But I mean, those are the guys, for example, that Hanro Liebenberg for me he's been one of the best flankers in the Premiership, and he's led incredibly well. And it's like he's one of those guys where it's like, gee, what more does the guy have to do to get a knock? But I mean, again, when there's an opportunity, but again, when there's so many losers in South Africa, it becomes almost impossible.
So if I had to really go left field, and the position is pretty stacked and there's some youngsters coming through, but I think Jeremy Ward is playing really good rugby for Stud. He's captained them recently. Like he's really taken on to the top 14 and the French lifestyle really well. I think maybe he'll get a look in. 12, funny thing, I always thought he was a 13, but 12 might be an option. Another one, probably not now, but Joe Jonas playing he's playing in the D2 at the moment, but at 15, he looks deadly. But I think he probably needs to get a look in at one of the others, at probably one of the senior top 14 sides. Trying to think now. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know if Jonas is injured at the moment. I haven't been focusing too much on the D2. But he's someone that I think he looks pretty good. Like he's beating defenders for fun. But other than that, no. I can't think of anyone overseas right now. But that doesn't mean there isn't anyone. I'm been a bit off the boil lately. The Jonny Sexton of Powered by RugbyBits.
But
When you come back
also,
for the big games.
yeah, 100%. But also, if you look at locally, does Akafana Maeva count as a bolter? Because I know John Plumtree's mentioned that Bongi is going to be back in a few weeks, but I'm sure. But Malcolm Marks, I think he's out for the year.
So he pulled out
so
of his contract in Japan, and they replaced him with Dan Coles. So he's pretty much out. I think it's also very much a case of get ready, get better. We'll talk in 2025. You can play all the rugby you want then.
100%. Yeah, and it's one of the ones you take. But again, now it becomes now he needs a third hooker. Does Dweber come back in the mix? Does someone like Akafana Maeva come back in the mix? Because Aka's made that number 2 jersey his own now at the Bulls. I know. So it's that hooker position becomes something interesting because we need a third hooker. Or again, knowing the Springboks, do we just go again with 2 hookers and Dion Fourie? Yeah. Case closed. Yeah.
It's very interesting, and lock-wise. So I would like. I know we spoke about them earlier, but I would definitely like Hacjivah Damian to get a look in. But I would also quite like Ben Jason Dixon to get a look in. I don't know if he's tall enough to be an international lock, but he covers lock and blindside flank. He's Peter Steph de Toy, Mostert kind of setup. That could be an option. And I have a question for you. Is Herschel Jantjies doing enough to get a recall? He seems to be in better form than he was last year.
Problem is, like, I was thinking about this in the holiday. We have so many good scrummers at the moment. Like,
and you can't look past Grant Williams right now. Like, I think everyone's looking at him going, he must play.
So it's one of those things. To the box, for example, like, do you say someone like Kobus Reinach? Do you say, Kobus, thanks for your services. You've given us 2 World Cups. We're going to move in a younger direction if needs be, or it's one of those ones. I think more like Reinach would possibly miss out. But here's the question: is, and I love Herschel Jantjies to bits, and he has been playing very good rugby in better form than he was last season. But Paul de Wet's also, whenever he's got a chance for the Stormers, he's been playing very well. Then you have Ambrose Papier, who's been good for about 2 seasons, and he hasn't going to look back in. Then you still got the likes of Mone van der Berg, who has been good as well, and there's Hamba as well, who has been good. Then there's so it's like, then even Van Zyl, I thought barring the last few weeks for Saracens, I thought he has been good. So the number of 9s we have and the depth we have at 9 is scary. Remember a few years ago, we were struggling to find a third 9. We had Faf and Herschel and Hope, and we thought, what on earth are we going to do if one of those guys get injured? And now, whereas now is we have so many quality 9s, and I think Herschel might get the nod because he has experience. He has experience and he's been in the camp before. But like for me, like someone like Ambrose Papier before he did the wildest. Oh, geez, Shocky. If you ever get a chance to ever watch the Stormers Bulls game, Ambrose Papier did the wildest thing I've ever seen, throwing absolutely Hail Mary passes, skipping 85 oaks. He just reverted back to like full on Ambrose after he got praised. But so like someone like Ambrose, but like I would think, or Shocky, I think someone like Papier for me, if someone like Reinach doesn't come back, someone like Ambrose Papier, I think, deserves to be the leading candidate for that role because he has probably the last 2 seasons probably been very well, and this season probably been the form scrum off in SA.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think he deserves a look in if there's an option, which there probably will be. Okay, forget Ireland and Portugal, and let's move over to the Rugby Championship. We obviously now want to go on and win it. We've got a target on our back, being world champions back to back. Book to book, as Matt Pierce said. what are the All Blacks going to bring? Under new management, Australia under new management. What's going to happen?
Kind of hard.
Let's talk the All Blacks and then let's talk the Wallabies.
Kind of hard to say the Wallabies under new management if they have no coach. They're just under. They don't know what that
TBC.
Yeah. So the All Blacks, I'm sure, I don't know if it was when you're on holiday, they sort of released their coaching staff and how stacked their coaching staff are. How stacked their coaching staff is, and all the guys have got Wayne Smith, Liam McDonald, Jason Holland. You know, they've taken every single Super Rugby coach and now got him in there. It looks fantastic. Razor's doing the right things. They're doing Broncos. They're sweeping the shades in January. There's only one problem, Sean. They don't have a flaw. And Dave McKenzie's put his hands up.
said that he could play the rest of his rugby in Japan.
Yeah. Richie Mwanga went to one orientation day at his new club in Japan. He's like, yeah, I could retire here. I know Bowden Barrett does eventually come back, but I mean, you're still asking a 33-year-old Bowden Barrett to come play 10 when he's not been playing 10 for the last 4 years, pretty much. So,
D-Mac?
No, I'm not convinced with D-Mac at 10.
What about your mate at the Crusaders? You've got a mate there, he plays 12 and 10.
So thanks, guys, for joining us at the first RugbyBits podcast of the year. We'll see you guys.
What's your mate's name? Dallas.
Fergus. That's my club plays 12. Fergus Blake is my best friend.
Fergus, that's it. He plays 10, and so does Dallas McLeod.
Now I've committed not to watch any Crusaders games for the rest of the season.
Super Rugby starts in 2 weeks, I think.
I know. So I think that's the big thing for the All Blacks. I mean, it's going to be replacing like Shannon Frizzell. Who's going to be? There's Blackadder. Hopefully you can stay fit. I still have not sold my Cullen Grace stocks. I still think Cullen Grace is an 80 cap All Black waiting to happen, but he just can't manage to in the field. But so shocking. My theory is this coaching staff they have now and Razor. I think Razor's coming in 4 years too late. So I think the All Blacks. It's going to be a big job. But for me, the coaching staff's great, but there's so many questions to answer. Who's going to play 6? Who's going to play 10? I think at props, they are sorted there. Lockwise again, it's replacing Brody and Sam Whitelock. So there's a lot of holes there to look at the All Blacks, and I think it's and like at lock like yes, there's the Tupo Vise and guys like that, but there's no out and out or coming in and going, this guy is God next. So I think the All Blacks are in a very interesting space, and I definitely think if there's ever a year for the All Blacks who drop their international, like if you play overseas, you can't play with All Blacks rule. I think it's this year. I think most international sides are going to look at changing that law, and the All Blacks are going to be one of them, because I definitely don't think their depth is where it used to be in certain positions, especially at 10 and at flank and at lock.
The Wallabies. You think that can win the Bledisloe? Come, man. Come. This is serious now. This is... Right, let's talk Wallabies.
If they get Joe Schmidt, yes. Anyone else, no. Now, it's just like, again, shocking. I don't know what they have a Lions tour into next year.
And they don't have Marky Mark. That's the one player that they probably had to hold on to, just purely for vibes.
I just don't understand how, like, this whole shit show they have, and it's like, and they forget, like, in a year's time they've got a Lions tour. Ringo had the best tweet. He said that the Lions, a team that effectively doesn't even exist, it's not a real team. They've got a coach, but the Wallabies don't.
That is sensational.
So with the Wallabies, it's I don't know, bro. Last year, like, I've never seen what happened last year happen to the international side. It's hard to take it seriously. I don't know. It's for all we know, those are like, they could bring back Ewan McKenzie again. For all we know, I mean, they could get Joe Schmidt. Like,
it wouldn't be bad if they did, eh?
The problem is Joe Schmidt's right there. Like, will he take another international job? Because I definitely think the Wallaby job was exciting. I think but you got nothing to lose. If you play with house money.
It's Rassie taking over the Springboks. It's exactly 100%. That. And I agree with you totally. There is no better role to take right now in World Rugby than the Wallabies. Because if they stay shit, like, it's not your fault. And if they get good, you're a flipping hero. So I think that's a great job. I think it'll be a very lucrative job. I think there'll definitely be bucks there. And Australia's not as shit as people make it out to be.
No, 100%, exactly. So it's like for me, the most important thing is the fact that you're taking over a program that is falling apart. It's at its lowest. It's as lowest as it can be. You can't make it any worse as it was last season, what Eddie Jones did to Australian rugby. You're playing with house money. You win 4 games or 5 games this year. You're in a good place. And get a few youngsters in, you're in a good place. And there are decent players there. There are good youngsters coming through. How funny would it be if if they had to call Dave Rennie, like, hey, so Dave, listen, so
We
you made
made
a mistake.
Well, sorry I cheated on you, but do you want to come back?
Sorry you missed out. And this time we promise we won't fire you before the World Cup.
I reckon Dave Rennie's the kind of guy that'll just be like, you can fuck right off. He's not going to
100%.
even entertain that.
100%.
As Nick Mallett said, when Nick Mallett was talking, and he was mentioning about when he took on the Italian coaching job, and he knew the CEO of Italian rugby at the time because they played together or whatever. And he spoke to his wife about it because I think he just left the Springboks at the time and he was technically unemployed. And his wife just said, just give them an astronomical number to coach. And Mallett phoned him back and said, well, this is the number I want. And he straight away over the phone said, cool, you're hired. And then he was like, oh shit, what am I going to do now? So I think Dave Rennie just needs to put a stupid number together.
No, I think so as well. The Wallabies they're in an interesting space, and I just don't know what they're going to do. And but Shocky, before, because I want to ask you about Six Nations, because before we go about Six Nations, because it's around the corner. Here's my theory of international rugby in this for the next 4-year window. I got this theory, which is why I think Rassie Erasmus also took the job again for the next 4 years. I think there's only 2 great teams at the moment in World Rugby, and that's the Boks and France. I think that Rassie kind of knew, looking at, you look at all the teams, like Ireland needing new 10, England, new coach, transitioning from the Sexton era, Vunipola era, transitioning. Wales, where do you start? You look at Scotland, Gregor Townsend is going to do Gregor Townsend things. Scotland always was a big game. Wallabies don't even have a coach. All Blacks don't have a 10. So it's like the Argentina, they'll be the All Blacks in one of the tests in Christchurch next year or the year after sometime. They always get their upsets in. But you look at the sides that are the best places to be right now is probably France and the Springboks. Springboks, lots of youngsters coming through, good experience, good coaches who've won 2 World Cups. France, all those youngsters coming through, pissed off. That got the best under 20 set up in the world at the moment, best league. I think France wins at least 2 of the next 4 nations, the next 6 nations. I think the Springboks should win. Springboks should win at least 2. Like 2 should be the under in terms of if you do over unders. Like 2 should be the under of Rugby Championships they win in the next 4 years. That's my theory. I think there's only 2 great sides, and there's so many sides trying to figure each other out. Where I definitely think the next 4 years is going to be a battle for 1 and 2 between the Springboks and France. That's my theory.
Ooh, interesting. I do see the Springboks approaching it slightly in a different manner, because I do feel that we do need to fill a lot of positions, and we do need to, like, I'm talking from a squad point of view, like that Rugby World Cup squad. I think we need to fill quite a few positions there moving forward, and we need to get another 13, someone that's going to help us out. I don't see Creel, and I'd like them to go to the next World Cup. I don't know their ages offhand, but like one of them are not going, so we'll need another 13. Well, I'd like both of them to go, so don't take that the wrong way. But I would love us to win a couple more rugby championships, because that is the one space where we can really kind of give everyone the middle finger. It's lovely to beat the All Blacks. The thing is we need to learn to overcome the Australians. I think that's the biggest space because we always get up for the All Blacks. It's kind of one for them, one for us. But then we go and do stupid things and lose against the Wallabies, who, like, let's be honest, aren't as good as they used to be. Like, they're there for the taking. We should beat them 2-0 comfortably this year, and we should beat them 2-0 next year. That's how, in what a bad space they are. So I like it, though. I agree with you on France, Kooks. I think they're still very hungry. And you're right. They've got enough players of the right age where they can be like, cool, we didn't make it this year in France, but we'll go win it in Australia. So yeah, interesting.
I just think, Shocky, with France, they look very similar to like the 2007 All Blacks. Stacked, proper stacked side, good enough to win it last year. Obviously, still probably the box office got the result. I think, I rewatched the game in the holidays as well. I think there was a 10-minute period again. We spoke about it when the subs came on, and France just could not get the try to sort of get ahead, because could not get any, just that one try to sort of pull a bit of a buffer them. And then obviously Springboks rode the storm and sort of came back and then sealed the game. But so I think you look at, that's what I think France is. I think now is, post that, is that I'm so glad they weren't reactionary and, for example, and fired Galtier, which is something all France would have done.
French, 100%. The most French thing they could have done. They would have just put everything back. They would have just leveled everything out.
100%. And that would have made everything come crashing down. And I think for me, that's the mature stance for France have taken is, yes, shit, we got that game wrong. And we can learn from this, but our structures are still there. One bad loss doesn't make up for what we've built and what we're currently building, because I've always felt that this French side, as good as they were last year, they were looking like they're built for 2027 with the age profile they have. And now you've got the likes of Bolbier, we've uncovered, and then under 20s who's seemingly just who can't lose the game, and they got flipping. I think they got like 11 guys coming back from last year's team. So, and then now you still got you got even a hungry Dupont. Tamak comes back. That's something where people forget that their starting 10 wasn't there. So there's a lot that went wrong there that they can still nullify. And for them, I think in Europe, I think Ireland will be in the mix, Shaun. But they got to figure out this 10 debate. And yes, I think looking at the URC and Champions Cup, everyone has put their hands up here and there. But what would you do if you're Ireland, Shocky? Are you going with Crowley, the youngster, and saying, Crowley, you got the keys for the year, we're going to back you? Or is it still, what do you call it, or is it still up for grabs in Crowley? And don't forget the URC GOAT, he's or Ross Byrne, he's always ready to go. Sam Pendergrass, he's coming, but he's still a baby. What route do you go if you're Ireland, especially the 10 jersey?
Jonny Sexton used to run the show. He captained, ran the game plan, got pissed off for everyone, and did he did it. Everything, he was the top of the pyramid. So they need to figure out who's going to do that. I quite like Prendergast at 10, but as you mentioned, he's quite young. I think he should get a look in somewhere along the line so we can see. But for me, I would go with Crowley. I think that he probably fits that personality of what Sexton was versus Byrne. Byrne, it's going to sound a bit disrespectful. I think Byrne is like a yes man in terms of that he just runs things. It seems... I'm not going to make any friends. Sometimes it seems like he doesn't really take the chances, and it could be for a number of reasons. One of the big things for him now is he's going to be front and center for Leinster, hopefully, and then he'll be able to grow in himself. Maybe that's the case. There's also that other youngster that plays 10 for Leinster, and I can't remember his name. He started at 10 this weekend. He's also pretty handy. But I would right now go with Crowley. I think Crowley would be the best shout for me. I think he's the mental sort of same space as Sexton in terms of how he runs the game. I like the way he takes his chances. He's got a bit of a I'm going to give it a go vibe about him, which I quite like. Having said that, Ireland very much are all about just playing the percentage game. They just they just keep turning over, and then they go score tries. They're not you would never say that they're the New Zealand or the All Blacks where they just oh, look, there's a gap. Let's just go bizarre and run forever for days, and just pull this amazing try together. So some big questions to be answered. But I right now would go with Crowley.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think I'll just go with Crowley and just back him and be like, you got the keys, and sort of build a team around and build a team around him. And then I think it's the time is coming. Obviously, I mean, I think post Sexton, the time obviously for them, it's if it, I think if it were for Farrell, I think Sexton would be going to Australia in 2 years' time. But unfortunately, they've got to move on. But so I'll go with Crowley. I think he's established young, and I think I think he's got the build for it, Sharky. I think he'll take it by the scruff of the neck. I mean, look what he did with Munster last season when they sort of when he was going between 12 and 10, and also the Stormers game just took possession of it. He put some experienced guys around him, and I think that Ireland will be fine.
Yeah, I think there will be. It's very interesting to see what happens. Kieran Frawley's the guy I was thinking about, the fly half. I quite like Kieran Frawley as well, actually. I wouldn't mind him getting a look in, but it doesn't change. I think Crowley definitely needs to get the start. But all of a sudden, Ireland have 3 10s that they could work through. Something I wanted to chat about, you're talking about the French and how they were very un-French about themselves and kept Fabien Galtier. I spoke about it a lot, that how South African rugby and the Springboks were lacking continuity. There was no succession planning going on. And we've got it now. Like Rassie has been in the mix now for his now what we'd call a third World Cup cycle or 2.5. But people know what's happening. They know the game plan, even though it changes. I do believe that everyone knows and understands what's going on. There's no ways you go and play like that without understanding. But what I didn't realize, and as you mentioned it kind of hit me, is that the French are also starting to build a bit of succession planning. They've gone, when did Galtier join? Was it before the last World Cup? I think it was before 2019. But I speak under correction.
Just before the World Cup started. It came late though.
Yeah. And now he's gone and built this. And when we spoke to Thomas a couple of times and he just mentioned about what Galtier is doing and who he's bringing in and the conversations he's having, I'll be very frank. If the French get succession planning going, they will F everybody up for years to come. They've got the players, they've got the league, they've got the money, like they've got the flair. If they start building this and they start churning out players like the All Blacks have been doing and like South Africa are starting to do, they will kick some serious ass. I mean, they could win essentially every 6 nations in this World Cup cycle. And
also, Shaka, they've got the substance now as well. It's no longer just this, you never know which French side is going to rock up. And I think they've got that substance now as well, which is, and again, unfortunately, like, you're not going to, yes, they may have lost the quarterfinal, but it doesn't mean that everything they did leading up to that was for shit. Like, and unfortunately, sometimes you've got to hit a barrier and you learn from that. I think I'm very motivational talking today's podcast, maybe because it's January. But like, you've got to and sometimes that happens. I mean, you talk about continuity. You look at, remember the All Blacks used to bring in a coach, John Hart, come, doesn't win the World Cup, fired. Okay, John Mitchell, your turn. Don't win the World Cup, get fired. Then for some reason, then they keep Graham Henry after 2007. What's the result? They win a World Cup. Springboks, for example, like we used to go, Jake White, win the World Cup, but thanks for coming. Peter Villiers, lose. So and then it was Heineken. So then every 4 years, we kept on restarting the project. Whereas like now, yes, we did so well to be like, yes, in 2018, we're going to sign Rassie and Jacques for 6 years. And then what's going to happen is there's a plan. And that plan resulted, yes, that 2019 when the coach was a bonus, but we got the one in 2023 because of the plan and because of a succession plan. So I think France are next in that boat of actually following a path of a succession plan. And maybe, you know, like we talked about it last year, Sharky, we don't know how the best way to actually prepare for a team for a World Cup. Is it to win 17 straight? Is it to rest all your players? Is it like the Box did? But I think one thing that is evident is each team that's sort of won the last 2-3 World Cups. You get the All Blacks and the Springboks, last 4 World Cups. That's come through succession planning. So I think what is true is the succession planning. Ireland, they keep Andy Farrell. And yes, they lost the quarterfinal, but at least they got someone who was in the mix, and they got him playing as best. They gave him the best of a chance they had. So I think the French are next in that line of, like you said, if they get it right, we're all in shit because they've got the youth coming through, they've got the league, and the league reminds you a lot of the IPL in cricket. But those also can get the best players in the world to come play in the top 14 to come and teach their youngsters. The young French flankers are learning from Sekulisi week in, week out. They like the guys at Toulouse and like Thomas Ramos, they're going to spend time with like Ches and Colby learning week in, week out. So it's like they know that and they can pull that, and it only makes their rugby better.
Yeah. One thing I want to correct you on, well, not correct you, but disagree with you on, is you say you don't know which French team's going to pitch up. I think it's the same is still happening now. They're either going to beat you by 40 or they're going to beat you by 5. So, interesting times ahead. In closing,
at least not the French side that either wins by 40 then loses to Italy by 2 points.
Exactly. In closing, a lot of our questions will be answered, and a lot of what we've been saying will be brought to light on the 2nd of February when the Six Nations gets kicked off, because the opening game on the Friday is France versus Ireland in France. So that should be good. It's followed on Saturday by Italy, England. It's a great one for England to get going on, but if they slip up, there's going to be a big cuck. And then finished with Wales versus Scotland, which should be a cracker. I think Scotland will be gunning for Wales.
That is the worst. No, I hear you, but I think that's the worst possible game for Scotland. Like, it's such a banana peel early. Probably favorite. Wales is a mess. Like, it's just like, eventually they're going to put together like 2 or 3 big performances. But like, for me, like, Scotland wants to play England first every Six Nations. That's their dream fixture to kick off the Six Nations. Yeah, just like give us England. In Twickenham. And like for now, it's going to be interesting. Can they pick themselves up for a Wales game where they should be favourites, whether it's home or away? Scotland should be favourites, and can they get a result? Because if they can go into an England game having won 1 or 2 games in a row, because I do think Scotland can put themselves in the mix of a Six Nations. But again, it's all about they can't string together 3 games. But flip and hell that Ireland-France game and the second tournament off, that's huge.
Yeah, I think France win by a fair amount. But yeah. Well, Kooks, it was absolutely amazing getting back into the swing of things in 2024 and chatting with you and talking rugby. I love it. I won't lie, I could probably just talk Rugby World Cup nonstop about the Springboks and what they did, because I still have questions and I don't have answers, and I don't think I'll ever get them. But Kooks, thank you so much. Is there a shout out you want to give before we jump off?
I think it's a shout out to all our dirt trackers for all the support, and hope everyone has a good year. I think it's going to be a very good year of rugby. Looking forward to it. I know we got robbed of first year out of World Cup because of COVID in 2020, so excited to have that. Excited to have all the debuts. Excited to have all the debuts, new competitions. Having Portugal in for the first time. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. So yeah, my shout out is because all the dirt trackers enjoy this year of rugby, and we're looking forward to chatting about it and giving you our insights.
Absolutely, thanks. Couldn't have said it better myself. To all of you, thanks for listening, and we'll definitely catch up with you next week as we back on the airwaves more regularly. Ciao.
Cheers, guys.